Picture this. I'm a boy of 12 summers, living in the heart of Tenochtitlan, the great Aztec capital, as the sun rises over the shimmering waters of Lake Texcoco. The city hums with life, market vendors shout their wares, children dart through narrow streets, and priests chant solemn prayers at the temples towering above the stone causeways. My family's home is a modest but sturdy reed and adobe structure nestled among many others, alive with the smells of maize cooking and the crackle of morning fires. My mother hums an old song as she prepares tortillas, while my father sharpens his obsidian blade, readying himself for the day's work. I run outside, chasing my younger sister, our laughter mingling with the distant drumming that announces the dawn. Today is special. The city is abuzz with preparations for the tribute gathering, a grand event where people from all corners of the empire come to offer gifts to our emperor. The plaza is decorated with vibrant feathers, painted stones, and woven banners, and the air is thick with incense and anticipation. We children watch wide-eyed as dancers in elaborate costumes whirl and leap, their movements telling stories of gods and heroes. The priests, robed in bright colors, move solemnly between the crowds, their faces painted with sacred symbols. But amid the celebration, a shadow falls over us. Without warning, imperial officials arrive, their presence commanding immediate silence. They wear the distinctive regalia of the emperor's court, feathered headdresses, jade necklaces, and cloaks dyed in the deep blue of the sacred waters. Their eyes scan the crowd, and my heart pounds in my chest. I glance at my parents, whose faces have drained of color. My mother's hands tremble, my father grips my sister's arm tightly. Whispers ripple through the gathering, these men are here to select boys for the emperor's service. I barely comprehend the words, but the meaning is clear. The officials begin pointing, calling out names, and suddenly, I hear my own name. My legs freeze. I look back to my family, my mother's lips quiver as tears well up in her eyes. I want to run, to throw myself into her arms, but strong hands seize my arms, pulling me away. Panic swells as I'm dragged from the plaza, the vibrant colors and joyful noise replaced by a cold, suffocating silence. The journey away from my home is a blur. I don't understand where I'm going or why I've been chosen, only that my world is collapsing. The officials speak little, their faces stern and unyielding. I catch glimpses of other boys, some crying, some stoic, others staring blankly into the distance. We are herded like animals, stripped of our familiar names and identities, reduced to mere offerings to an empire's insatiable hunger for power. As we pass through the city's stone gates, I steal one last look at the spires of the Templo Mayor, where the gods watch silently. I clutch a small amulet my grandmother gave me, a talisman she said would protect me from harm. But the warmth of home slips further away with each step. I learn quickly that to be chosen for the emperor's court as a male concubine is both a curse and a strange kind of honor. The palace is a place of unparalleled luxury and terrifying control, where beauty and youth are prized, but where exploitation lurks behind every gilded door. The officials tell me that serving the emperor is to serve the gods themselves, that my selection is a blessing. But as I am thrust deeper into this world, I begin to sense the weight of chains beneath the silks and jewels. There is no time to mourn. The boys who have been taken with me are gathered into groups, their faces etched with fear and confusion. Some whisper prayers to gods old and new, others stare silently, their spirits already broken. I meet a boy named Itzkintli, whose eyes hold a fierce determination despite the circumstances. He tells me quietly that resistance is dangerous, that those who fight are punished severely. I nod, though my heart rebels. The officials explain that we will be trained to serve the emperor's desires, to entertain, to please, and to obey. Our bodies will be scrutinized for beauty, our minds shaped to understand the complexities of court life. But beneath the flowery words lies an unspoken threat: disobedience means exile, or worse. We are to become instruments of power, silenced and controlled. As night falls, we are led to a compound near the palace, its high walls casting long shadows under the moonlight. The air is thick with the scent of copal incense and damp stone. My hands tremble as I am given a simple tunic, the fabric coarse against my skin. I lie on a mat in a dim room with other boys, the silence broken only by muffled sobs and the creaking of wooden beams. I think of my mother's face, pale and tear-streaked, and my father's stoic gaze. I wonder if they believe I will return, or if I am already lost to them forever. The fear gnaws at me, but beneath it, a small ember of hope remains. If I can survive, perhaps I can find a way to remember who I am beneath the layers of obligation and control. The days that follow blend into one another. The officials visit frequently, inspecting us, measuring us, and marking those they deem most promising. I watch as some boys are singled out for their beauty, their smooth skin and bright eyes winning favor. Others are ignored or punished for minor infractions. The invisible line between privilege and suffering is razor-thin, and I tread it cautiously. In the evenings, when the compound is quiet, I close my eyes and try to recall the songs my mother sang, the taste of fresh maize, the feel of my sister's hand in mine. These memories are fragile shields against the cold reality closing in. But even as I cling to them, I sense the slow erosion of my childhood, the beginning of a life caught between the splendor of the empire and the harshness of its demands. I am no longer just a boy from a small neighborhood in Tenochtitlan. I am a chosen one, a concubine in waiting, trapped in a world where power is both a prize and a prison. The road ahead is uncertain, shadowed by the weight of expectation and the threat of exploitation. Yet, within me, a quiet defiance stirs, the hope that, somehow, I will endure. The sun rises again, but the world I knew is gone. We are herded onto rough reed rafts, pushed across the shimmering waters of the lake toward the Emperor's palace, a vast complex of gleaming stone and towering temples that seem to scrape the sky itself. The journey is grueling. My legs ache from the hours cramped among other boys, our faces streaked with dust and sweat, our mouths parched. Some whisper prayers, others sit in silence, eyes hollow. The officials offer no comfort, only stern commands and sharp looks. I clutch my worn tunic tighter, my heart pounding with dread and a strange, flickering hope that perhaps this passage will bring some meaning to the nightmare. As we approach the palace gates, the massive stone walls loom above us, adorned with carvings of warriors and gods, their eyes seeming to watch our every move. The guards, clad in jaguar pelts and obsidian-tipped spears, stand like statues, unmoving and unforgiving. We are funneled through narrow corridors, our footsteps echoing off marble floors, until we reach a vast courtyard where other boys, already in the Emperor's service, move with practiced grace. Some glance at us with curiosity, others with cold indifference. I meet it Skintly again, his expression a mask of weary acceptance. "Welcome," he says quietly. "This is only the beginning." His words settle over me like a shroud. The palace is a world apart from the bustling streets of Tenochtitlan. Here, every stone, every breath seems calculated to remind us of our place. We are assigned quarters, small, sparse rooms with little more than mats and clay water vessels. The walls are thick, the windows barred, and the air heavy with incense and the weight of unseen eyes. Our days begin before the sun fully rises, with harsh drills designed to break our spirits and build obedience. We are taught to move with precision, to speak with measured tones, to present ourselves not as boys but as instruments of the Emperor's will. The instructors are stern, their faces unreadable beneath painted masks. They demand perfection, punishing mistakes with swift blows or cruel words. A boy named Tlaloc tries to resist once, shouting out in frustration, and is dragged away, his screams echoing long after we are ordered to forget. Yet amidst the discipline, lessons in the arts and languages unfold. We learn the Nahuatl tongue in its most refined form, the poetry of courtly speech, the intricate dances performed for the gods and the emperor alike. Our hands are trained to play flutes and drums, our bodies to move with fluid grace. It is a cruel paradox, they build us up as beauties and entertainers, even as we are ground down into submission. I watch boys around me respond in different ways. Some, like it Skintly, steel themselves with quiet determination, refusing to let the palace break their will. Others, like Tlaloc, burn with rebellion only to be extinguished by pain and isolation. There are those who close their eyes and sink into numbness, their spirits fading like shadows at dusk. The most dangerous lesson, I realize, is learning to read the palace itself, the shifting alliances, the unspoken rules, the delicate balance between favor and ruin. The Emperor's concubines, chosen for their beauty and wit, wield a strange power, yet they are also prisoners of the same system. Older boys, already favored, patrol the corridors like watchful predators, their smiles thin veils for sharp claws. I see how whispered favors can mean survival, how a glance or a gesture can elevate or destroy. One afternoon, I am summoned to a hall where the emperor's chief eunuch awaits. His eyes are cold, surveying me as if I am a rare jewel to be appraised. He speaks little, but his gaze lingers on my trembling hands and wide eyes. I nod, swallowing my fear, knowing that this ritual is a test of endurance as much as obedience. That night, as I lie on my mat, I think about the journey that brought me here. The forced march from my home, the terror in my mother's eyes, the endless hours of travel by raft and foot. Each step stripped away a piece of who I was, leaving behind a boy caught between worlds, no longer a child, yet not yet free. The palace walls press in around me, a labyrinth of stone and shadows where every movement is watched and weighed. In the days that follow, the training intensifies. We are taught the sacred rituals that bind us to the emperor, ceremonies that require us to don masks and costumes that erase our faces and names. The dances grow more complex, the songs more haunting. Our bodies become tools of spectacle, meant to enthrall and please those in power. Yet beneath the surface, the coercion is unmistakable. The same hands that teach us also threaten us, the same voices that praise our beauty whisper warnings of punishment. I find myself walking a tightrope between hope and despair. I want to believe that survival means mastering this new world, that learning its ways will grant me some measure of control. But each day, I see the cost, the boys who disappear after missteps, the quiet tears behind closed doors, the moments when the mask slips and the raw fear is laid bare. One evening, Itzkintli confides in me, his voice barely above a whisper. They want us broken, but we must hold on to what makes us human. Remember your name. Remember your family. That is our strength. I cling to his words, though the palace's grip is relentless. The physical exhaustion is matched only by the emotional toll. The constant surveillance, the endless lessons, the unyielding demands erode my sense of self. I learn to hide my fear, to smile at the right moments, to keep my thoughts guarded. Trust is a luxury we cannot afford here. Occasionally, I catch glimpses of the outer world, the bustling markets beyond the palace walls, the distant sounds of the city that pulses with life and resistance. Those moments are brief and bittersweet, reminders of a freedom I may never reclaim. As weeks turn to months, I begin to understand the precariousness of my position. I am both chosen and vulnerable, prized for my youth and beauty, yet expendable in the eyes of those who hold power. The line between favor and failure is invisible but deadly. I watch as boys are elevated to positions of influence, their smiles bright but their eyes wary. I see others fade into shadows, their voices silenced. Still, I learn to navigate this complex web. I observe the alliances formed in whispers, the subtle gestures that convey loyalty or betrayal. I study the faces of the older concubines, their smiles hiding scars both visible and unseen. Survival depends on more than obedience, it demands cunning, patience, and sometimes sacrifice. One night, as I lie awake beneath the cold stone ceiling, I wonder what lies ahead. The palace is a gilded cage, beautiful but suffocating. I am a boy transformed, no longer innocent, yet not yet fully lost. The lessons I learn here will shape my body, my mind, and my soul. But beneath the weight of expectation and fear, a small flame of defiance endures, fragile but unextinguished. The chambers of the emperor are unlike anything I could have imagined, an opulent labyrinth of stone and gold, where every surface gleams with carved jade and intricate mosaics that catch the flickering light of countless candles. The air is heavy with the scent of copal and exotic flowers, mingling with the faint, ever-present tension that coils beneath the palace's beauty. Here, in these private quarters, the true nature of my existence begins to take shape, a life of luxury shadowed by control and confinement. On my first night within the emperor's inner sanctum, I am led through vast halls by a eunuch whose eyes are as sharp as the obsidian blades carried by the palace guards. My footsteps echo in the silence, swallowed by the high ceilings and thick tapestries that depict gods and warriors locked in eternal struggle. The door to the emperor's chambers opens slowly, revealing a space both magnificent and daunting. Cushions embroidered with gold thread are arranged around a low platform where the emperor reclines, his gaze piercing and unreadable. I am instructed to kneel and remain still, my heart pounding as I feel the weight of countless eyes upon me. The emperor's attendants circle like shadows, watching, waiting. The luxury surrounding me is suffocating, silks brush my skin, but my soul feels raw and exposed. The opulence is a gilded cage, its beauty a mask for the power wielded here. The first nights are a trial by fire. I am kept under constant watch, my every movement scrutinized. Sleep is broken by whispered commands and the soft footsteps of those who patrol the corridors. The emperor's presence is a looming force, felt even when he is not near. I learn quickly that here, obedience is survival, hesitation is danger. Rituals become the rhythm of my days and nights. I am taught to participate in ceremonies that transform us from boys into symbols, objects of desire and tools of political power. Masks are placed upon our faces, painted with vibrant colors and sacred designs that erase individuality and impose new identities. We dance before the emperor and his court, our movements precise and practiced, embodying gods and myths that blur the line between performance and reality. An older concubine named Zokipili takes notice of me. He moves with a confidence born of years within these walls, his eyes sharp and calculating beneath a veneer of charm. Zokipili is both mentor and menace, he offers protection but demands loyalty, his favors exacted in ways that unsettle me. He speaks softly, his words laced with promises and warnings, a reminder that power here is a currency paid in pain and submission. I struggle to hold onto the fragments of myself beneath the layers of costume and expectation. Each day, I feel the edges of my identity blur, the boy I once was slipping farther away. The rituals strip away not only our names but our histories, replacing them with roles assigned by the emperor's will. We become vessels for his desires and symbols of his strength, our individuality sacrificed to the empire's grandeur. The palace is a web of control, where every smile can hide a threat, and every gesture carries weight. I watch as Zokipili asserts his dominance over newer boys, his influence a double-edged sword. Some submit willingly, seeking favor and protection, others resist, only to find themselves isolated or punished. The hierarchy among concubines is as rigid as the one imposed by the emperor, a reflection of the palace's ruthless nature. Isolation is a constant companion. Despite being surrounded by others, I often feel utterly alone. The walls confine not only my body but my spirit. Trust is scarce, friendships are fragile and fleeting, forged in whispered conversations behind closed doors. The fear of betrayal hangs heavy, a silent threat that colors every interaction. Abuse is woven into the fabric of palace life. The same hands that teach us the sacred dances also impose their will in brutal ways. I learn to mask my pain, to swallow my fears, and to navigate the dangerous currents of desire and power. The older concubines sometimes cross boundaries that leave scars unseen, their touch a reminder of the vulnerability that underpins our existence here. Yet, amidst the darkness, moments of unexpected kindness flicker. Zokipili, despite his harshness, sometimes shares stories of his past, a glimpse of the boy he once was before the palace claimed him. In those brief windows, I see the man behind the mask, the cost of survival etched into his eyes. These moments sustain me, a fragile tether to humanity in a world determined to erase it. The rituals continue, each ceremony a step deeper into the emperor's realm. We are adorned with feathers and jewels, transformed into living symbols of power and beauty. The dances grow more complex, their meanings layered with political and spiritual significance. Our bodies become instruments of spectacle, tools to reinforce the emperor's divine authority. Despite the grandeur, the palace is a place of constant tension. Rivalries among concubines simmer beneath polite smiles, alliances shift like desert sands. Eunuchs patrol the halls, their presence a reminder of the emperor's control over every aspect of our lives. Punishments for missteps are swift and unforgiving, reinforcing the fragile order that governs us. I find myself caught between fear and fascination. The emperor's world is intoxicating, a dazzling display of power and ritual, yet it is also a prison where my identity is relentlessly chipped away. I wrestle with the loss of self, the erosion of my childhood innocence, and the harsh reality of my role as both prized possession and disposable object. Late at night, when the palace quiets and shadows lengthen, I retreat inward. I cling to memories of home, the warmth of my mother's touch, the sound of my sister's laughter, the taste of fresh maize. These recollections are fragile shields against the encroaching darkness, reminders that beneath the layers of silk and paint, I am still a boy with a past. But the longer I remain in the Emperor's chambers, the more I understand the true cost of favor. Power here is a game of survival, played with bodies and souls. The palace promises glory and protection, but it demands sacrifice, of freedom, of identity, and sometimes of innocence. Xochipilli's shadow looms large over me. His protection comes at a price, and I am forced to make choices that chill my spirit. The line between survival and submission blurs, each step forward a negotiation between desire and fear. I learn that to navigate the palace is to accept its contradictions, to wield power and endure pain, to mask vulnerability with strength. In this gilded cage, I am remade. The boy who once ran through the streets of Tenochtitlan is fading, replaced by a figure crafted to please, to endure, to survive. The rituals, the abuse, the subtle manipulations, they are all threads in the tapestry of my new life, woven tightly and inescapably. As the days pass, I steel myself against the erosion of my soul. I grasp at whatever remnants of self remain, clinging to the hope that beneath the Emperor's gaze, beneath the mask and the role, I can still find a way to be more than a concubine, a boy who remembers who he truly is. The palace is a living web of power, secrets, and shifting alliances, where every glance, every whispered word, carries weight far beyond its surface. Within this tangled social fabric, I find myself entangled in a constant battle to survive and to hold on to whatever scraps of identity remain. The concubines, eunuchs, and servants all play parts in a complex dance of influence and vulnerability, each vying for favor while guarding their own fragile positions. Among the concubines, rivalries simmer beneath forced smiles. Some seek to rise by undermining others, weaving webs of gossip and manipulation. The favored ones, those who have caught the Emperor's eye, hold a precarious power that can elevate or destroy. I watch as alliances form and dissolve with the fickle tides of court life, each move calculated, each gesture loaded with hidden meaning. The older concubines, hardened by years within these walls, act as both protectors and predators, guardians of the palace's dark rules, but also enforcers of its cruelty. The eunuchs serve as the Emperor's eyes and ears, their presence a constant reminder of the control wielded over us. Their faces are often unreadable, their loyalty absolute. They patrol the halls with silent authority, enforcing discipline and punishing transgressions swiftly and without mercy. I have seen boys punished for the smallest offenses, whispers of rebellion or moments of disobedience met with brutal consequences. The fear of punishment hangs over us like a dark cloud, shaping our behavior and silencing dissent. Within this oppressive atmosphere, the psychological toll on the boys is immense. Some, like it skintly, summon resilience through quiet strength, refusing to let the palace break their spirit. Others, worn down by relentless pressure and abuse, sink into despair or numbness. I see boys who once sparkled with life fade into shadows, their eyes dull, their voices hushed. The palace strips us not only of freedom but of hope, replacing it with a survival instinct that demands both submission and cunning. I wrestle constantly with my own conflicting desires. There is a part of me that yearns for acceptance, for a place within this terrifying world. Yet another part rebels against the exploitation and control, a flicker of defiance that refuses to be snuffed out. This internal struggle is exhausting, a battle fought in silence as I navigate the treacherous currents of palace life. The presence of the older concubines complicates everything. Xochipilli remains a shadow over my days, his protection both a shield and a shackle. His power within the social hierarchy is undeniable, and his demands are not always spoken aloud. I learn that to survive here, one must often pay a price invisible to outsiders. The lines between affection, coercion, and domination blur, and I find myself caught in a web of dependency that is as dangerous as it is necessary. Outside the palace walls, the world shifts beneath the feet of the Aztec Empire. Spanish conquistadors have arrived, their strange armor and weapons a harbinger of change. Though the emperor's court remains insulated, rumors reach us, whispers of battles lost and cities falling. The Spanish do not understand our customs or our gods, they speak a harsh language and bring death in their wake. I overhear conversations among the eunuchs and concubines, their voices tinged with fear and disbelief. The empire feels fragile, like a great tree shaking in a storm. Some of the conquistadors who have glimpsed the emperor's court write of its splendor, unaware of the dark undercurrents beneath the surface. Their accounts speak of beauty and ceremony but ignore the suffering woven into every gilded corner. I wonder if anyone outside will ever know the true stories of the boys who serve here, the lives marked by loss and exploitation hidden behind the empire's grandeur. The threat of punishment remains a constant shadow. A boy named Tepin is caught trying to steal food, desperate after days of hunger. The punishment is swift and harsh, public humiliation followed by confinement in a dark cell where screams echo unanswered. The memory of his cries haunts me, a grim warning of the price of resistance. I learn to swallow my fears, to obey without question, and to mask my pain behind a calm facade. Yet even as the palace demands submission, cracks appear in its armor. Some boys whisper of escape, of fleeing into the city's labyrinthine streets. Others speak of secret prayers to gods who might save them. These acts of quiet defiance are dangerous, but they testify to the unbroken spirit that survives despite everything. I find myself torn between caution and hope, drawn to these flickers of rebellion even as I understand their peril. The emotional scars run deep. Long after the punishments end, the memories linger, touches that were not of kindness, words spoken in shadows, the isolation that gnaws at the soul. I see it in the eyes of the boys around me, the haunted look of those who have endured too much too soon. The palace's cruelty is not only physical but psychological, a slow erosion of self that leaves us vulnerable and broken. In the quiet moments, I reflect on the boy I once was, the life left behind in the streets of Tenochtitlan. The memories are both comfort and torment, reminders of a world lost and a self slipping away. I cling to these fragments, even as the palace seeks to overwrite them with roles and rituals. Survival here demands more than obedience, it requires learning to read the unspoken language of power. I watch the subtle exchanges, the glance that signals favor, the slight turn of a head that marks arrival. I learn to speak in silence, to hide my true feelings beneath layers of practiced calm. It is a lonely existence, but it is necessary. The palace's social web is tangled and treacherous, but it also offers glimpses of connection. Occasionally, I find brief moments of kindness, a shared meal, a whispered word of encouragement, a hand offered in solidarity. These small acts are lifelines, fragile bonds that remind me that even here, amidst cruelty and control, humanity endures. As the days pass, I grow more adept at navigating the palace's complexities. I learn to balance fear and courage, submission and resistance. The psychological toll is immense, but it also forges resilience, a quiet strength born of necessity. I am changing, shaped by the forces around me, but not yet defeated. The world outside continues to shift, and the empire's future grows uncertain. Within these walls, the lives of boys like me remain hidden, shadows beneath the shining surface of power. Our stories are whispered only in silence, our suffering etched into the stone and air of the palace. Yet, despite the darkness, the ember of hope flickers still. In the depths of my heart, I hold on to the belief that survival is more than endurance, that somewhere beyond these walls, a life awaits where I can reclaim what has been lost. Until then, I move carefully through the palace's labyrinth, a boy caught between desire for acceptance and the will to resist, learning the cruel lessons of power and pain that define my existence here. Time moves like a shadow in the palace, quiet, relentless, and impossible to grasp. Years pass, and the boys taken from their homes become men shaped by the empire's will, their bodies and spirits marked by a life caught between favor and exploitation. The fate of those of us chosen as male concubines varies, yet none escape the heavy hand of history's erasure. Some of us fade into obscurity, our names lost beneath the grand narratives of conquest and empire. We become whispers in the corridors, shadows behind the emperor's throne, our stories swallowed by time and silence. Others are swept up in the tides of imperial politics, pawns manipulated by those who see us not as human beings but as tools to secure power and influence. Our lives are entangled in schemes far larger than ourselves, our bodies and loyalties traded like currency. I have witnessed the rise and fall of many within these walls. Boys who once shone brightly under the emperor's gaze, only to be cast aside when their usefulness waned. Some meet tragic ends, disappearances, executions, or exile to distant provinces. The palace is a place of both glory and ruin, where the line between triumph and tragedy is perilously thin. The system that ensnared us perpetuates itself with cruel efficiency. New boys arrive, wide-eyed and terrified, just as I once was, caught between the promise of honor and the reality of exploitation. The cycle repeats, a dark legacy woven into the fabric of Aztec society. Our suffering is hidden beneath the empire's splendor, the cost of its grandeur paid in the lost innocence and stolen childhoods of countless boys. This legacy challenges the way history remembers the Aztec Empire. Beneath the towering temples and the stories of conquest lies a more complex truth, one that acknowledges the human cost of power. The roles forced upon us as male concubines reveal the intersections of gender, control, and violence within the society that built this empire. Our experiences underscore how systems of domination operate not only through warfare and politics but through the bodies and lives of the vulnerable. The arrival of the Spanish conquistadors hastened the empire's collapse, scattering the lives woven into its court like leaves in a storm. Many of us were lost in the chaos, our fates unrecorded and forgotten. The new rulers brought their own cruelties, but the silence surrounding the concubine stories remained, an absence in the pages of history that speaks volumes. Now, as the empire lies in ruins and the palace stands empty, I reflect on what remains of us, our memories, our pain, our resilience. The grand stones and faded murals bear witness to lives lived in shadows, to suffering veiled by splendor. Our stories demand to be uncovered, to be told not as footnotes but as vital parts of the past. I remember the boy I once was, the child of a small neighborhood in Tenochtitlan, torn from home and thrust into a world of power and pain. I carry the echoes of my family's love, the warmth of memories that no palace can erase. Though the empire sought to break us, to mold us into instruments of control, our humanity endures. Our stories are testimonies of resilience in the face of systematic cruelty. They remind us that behind every empire's grandeur lies a foundation built on suffering. To honor our forgotten humanity is to acknowledge the full truth of history, the glory and the grief intertwined. In the quiet moments, I hold on to hope that those who come after will remember us, not just as concubines or pawns, but as boys who lived, who loved, who endured. That our voices, long silenced, might finally be heard.